Hello, my name is Janice B. Gordon, and this is Scale Your Sales Podcast. Welcome to Scale Your Sales Podcast, listed number 9 of 43 best podcasts for every sales professional. I am Janice B. Gordon, a customer growth expert and awarded RevTech strategist of 2024. In today's episode of Scale Your Sales Podcast, we look at modern sales leadership in customer success, calling out how customer success leaders are often expected to deliver results without the real power and resources, and how much the environment has changed. Now, customer success leaders need to use the discovery questions in order to help leaders understand the targets that are set in place, really understand why, what's driving it, what it's based upon, and what they're trying to achieve. And customer success leaders are really having to use data in order to evidence the direction that they want to go in, to justify the resources. We also discuss AI and how it's transforming post-sales landscape. There's lots in this episode that you will love. My next guest is previously head of customer success at Regie.ai. She is a GTM leader passionate about blending AI innovation with human insight. With deep experience in building teams, scaling post-sale operation, she is known for turning customer value into business growth. Welcome to Scale Your Sales Podcast, Leeron Yahalomi.
Thank you, Janice. It's good to be here.
Well, yeah, I cannot wait to get into this conversation. Looking at your LinkedIn and the comments that you make there and what you post there, it's like so much. You're such an interesting person. There's so much to get into. So let's start with your insights on AI. And, you know, as AI is becoming more embedded into the go-to-market strategies and how it's transforming the role of customer success. So what should CEOs and CROs be thinking about in terms of, you know, what humans should be doing, what scales AI, and how we build trust in this really hybrid world?
Great question, and a subject that's near and dear to my heart as someone who's been working in AI for over 10 years. I think we're at the place where we need to start embracing the reality that we're in. Think of it this way. 20 years ago, the internet was still new to us, and there was some fear about using it. And now we can't imagine a world where we don't have access to it. And we talk about equality and access to all. AI is that next wave that's going to come. AI is not here to replace any of us or the jobs that we do. AI is here to make sure that we are able to do our jobs better and focus on the areas that we as human beings are better at doing. AI is fantastic at doing the mundane, the repetitive work, the boring things, the things that you're like, oh, do I really have to do it? The answer is no. You can use an AI for it. I think to answer your question, what any leader in any position should really think about, regardless of what role they are, whether it's sales, HR, tech, customer success, is where can you embed AI in order to scale your organization and scale your team? AI is a lot less costly than hiring 5 more people to do a job. You need to think about a strategy, not just purchase an AI platform and then figure out where to put it, but actually look at your entire organization and understand the role that each one of the people in your organization are doing and where they're wasting time. Where can time be saved by using AI? Whether it's data entry, whether it's research, whether it's creating decks of information, whether it's writing notes or collecting notes after a meeting. There's so many different areas where AI can be used for productivity and for scaling up the skills that humans have the ability to do better than a machine can do it by itself.
There's a lot of protocols that you need to be aware of in AI. And so, you know, it's protecting the organization. It's talking about protecting the customer as well. But it's also about the fear level that people have that it is taking their jobs. Because I've you get it on both sides. It's not going to take over your jobs. It's actually enabling your job, but there's still that fear level. So how do leaders overcome the need for protection, the need for policy, putting the right policies in place, but also to encourage their workforce to engage with the benefits of using AI?
What a great question. And I think it goes to the core of what leadership actually is. And to me, leadership is not about dictating and putting policies and processes and procedures together, the 3 Ps that no one in my team ever wants me to hear saying. It is about understanding where your team is at. So I can tell you one of the things that I've done in the past where I have either brought in a new platform, whether it's AI or any other platform that I've enabled my team to utilize. Think about it as any other platform you've brought over to the team. You need to understand where your team is at. So having conversations with them about what are some of their favorite things about their role and what are some of the things they're like, if I could offshore this or hand this to someone else, I would do so in a heartbeat. Those are the places where you can wean your workforce, but actually giving them the tool to do that piece of work. One area that I used on my team in one of my latest roles were utilizing call notes AI. So you no longer have to sit there while meeting with a customer and frantically trying to type every single word coming out of their mouth, but also actively listening and being engaged in providing information. That is such a hard task to do, to multitask during that conversation. So one of the easiest things to do was, hey, can we perhaps introduce the platform and use an AI to take notes from our calls? So you no longer have to do that. Have a conversation, ask great questions, actively listen to the customers, reduce the level of stress during a conversation. The AI will provide you with those notes afterward. You can then parse out of that the notes that you need to put into your CRM by creating a copy paste motion, or even the entire transcript that comes from the AI, providing that as a captured email after the conversation with the customer is, here's what we've discussed, here's what we've agreed. Those were some of the smallest and biggest wins that I could get with my team, is to take something that was really hard for them and showing them how AI can solve that. That built trust very quickly into those bigger initiatives I wanted to do. So take the small wins first. Don't overhaul your entire organization and company by saying, we're going to be AI first. That will scare everybody. Start in small places. Change takes time. And in order to inflict change, I strongly believe you have to go through an evolution. Start small and then grow with it. Your team will actually value so much in taking those small steps, and then they will trust you and they will trust the AI when it's time for those bigger ones.
It's really interesting. We say this very much about our customers: start where they are. And now you're saying that with your team: start where they are. And, you know, what I thought the other interesting thing that you said was understand the tasks they do not like to do, they don't love. And most of those tasks, you know, like, who loves putting information in a CRM? Who's got one good word to say about a CRM? Nobody. So
No one.
if that's the one thing that everyone agrees they absolutely hate, and you can offload, you know, a good 90% of those tasks, then everyone would be that. And you don't even need to call it AI, you know, because that's the fear factor, isn't it? You know,
Right.
it's just kind of getting rid of the tasks that most people do not like. And I think that's a great reframe as to what we're doing.
Absolutely.
Yeah, love it, love it. All right, so looking at your social media, LinkedIn in particular, we had Jan Young on here, and she made a very powerful statement, and then you kind of went on to add value to that. And it was really about how leaders aren't failing, but they're being asked to lead without the power, resources, and a real voice. So in your view, how can customer success leaders really reclaim and reshape the post-sale journey to become the true revenue engine and not just the support function?
Oh, what a great question. And something that I think is really needed in the past, and we have to start from the past so we understand how we got here. In the past, customer success leaders were not expected to be data-driven leaders. They were expected to create a center of happiness, a center of health. As long as the customer was happy or deemed healthy, they were fine. But the world has changed. The economic situation we are has changed. And if you're going to lead today in 2025, the same way that you led prior to 2020, you're going to fail. So I'll start first with what I believe CS leaders need to do themselves. One, become data-driven decision makers. If you're going to ask for something, bring the data with it. If you're going to ask for more headcount, you're going to have to show the cost, the saving, and how that impacts the entire organization. You have to understand a P&L. Take a few sales courses. Go understand what business administration looks like and how to run a business. You in CS are running an organization, running a business. You need to operate from that area of strength, and not only from having conversations and telling stories about what feels good. You actually have to make decisions that are based in data and understand how that impacts the entire company that you are part of, and showing others that you're an equal leader that understands that impact and understands how to drive it. And I also think that in terms of upper leaderships, when it comes to CEOs, PE, or investment firms, you have to make sure that the CS leader also gets not just a list of demands, but a list of resources of how to do it. So one of the things that I've guided other fellow CS leaders that I mentor is when they come and say, I was asked to do XYZ, enter words like increase NRR by 15%, decrease time to value. My question is always, great. Do you know what those numbers were for the last 3 years? And it's usually cricket. How can you run an organization and a business if you don't know where you're coming from? So you have to go collect that information. And when you have those data points, understand where there are different levers that you can pull, understand which lever will give you more impact, even if it's different time frames, and understand what's the timeline that the company has. In some cases, I have made changes to processes where we were doing what I called marginal gain. 1% better each day. At the end of the year, 365% increase. But I had 12 months to create an impact, and my timeline was 12 months. So I could afford a 1% difference each day. But in other cases, when you have a quarter or 2 quarters to make an impact, you can no longer afford 1%. So you need to understand where you came from, what those numbers look like. If someone says to you, we need to multiply our bookings by 2x, you cannot walk out of that room without understanding what that number was last year and what's the total number, and then ask a great question and say, Janice, you know what? I'm super excited that you have entrusted me with this really great chore here. As I'm taking and embarking on this mission, what are some of the resources that I have in order to achieve this goal? No one can just give you a goal without giving you the resources. And if you as a CS leader are not asking for the resources you need, maybe not in the moment, maybe you take that ask and take a couple of days and work on a plan and come back and say, I've ran some numbers, here are my recommendations, here's what I think we can do, but also for each one of those recommendations, here's what we need in order to reach those numbers. You can't just take a number and then smile and say, yes, I can do it. You have to understand where you're coming from, where you need to go, how long it will take, and what resources you have to get there.
Do you find it that often you'll get a goal, a target, 2x, but actually when you interrogate it, it's the wrong goal? When you understand why they want it, who's driving it, and whether it's, you know, the investors, whether it's the leadership team, there's always an assumption that someone that's asking you to do something understands the metrics, the environment, and how that is. So, because the number, you know, just create these things out of thin air, but they don't really understand your job role and what is and isn't possible. So sometimes perhaps someone that is not a senior, and even those that are, do not interrogate as to why they want that particular metric. what is driving it, and what do they think it's going to do? Because often it puts more stress factor on the whole operation, and it actually then undermines other aspects of the business, or it's very short-term thinking rather than long-term. So do you find that you really need to also go back and understand the why and what are the drivers?
Absolutely. I would call it differently than interrogation or inquisition. I call it the art of sales. Go back to do your discovery. So one of the areas that I feel CS leaders can really learn a lot from their sales partner, and perhaps as someone who has led sales teams in the past as well, my duality in being in both households helps me in that. You have to do discovery. Understand where the ask is coming for. Who is actually asking for it? Why are they asking for it? What happens if we do nothing? What happens if we do something? What will failure look like and what will success look like? Who is involved? All those great discovery questions that you do when you're building a sales in motion, and that you're trying to understand. Because to your earlier point, and maybe this is just the way I do things, so I don't think about it as much, and maybe that's why I don't articulate it. I view everyone I work with as a customer. So the same way, understanding where they're coming from, understanding their need, understanding their pain, understanding what are the different forces pulling on their ask, and understanding how I can then better position and consult into a solution that would be best for them and help champion that solution on their behalf.
Yeah, love it, love it. So it's interesting the prominence of CS and how that has grown. You know, I've been talking about the importance of account management, customers centric sales and retention for a long time before we started really talking about expansion and how important that is. And as you know, SaaS has become one of the main go-to-market strategies that many organizations have moved over to. So now within many organizations I work with, that used to be more traditional upfront type of sales business. Now it's a good 70% of their revenue is very much dependent on customer success, not on what is the traditional sales department. So it's really interesting how customer success has moved out of the customer satisfaction arena and moved more into this is the bigger part of our sales revenue.
Yes, I call it the next sale. If you stop thinking about CS as a cost center or a happiness center or a health center, and understand that customer success is where the next sales happen. So in new business, that's your first sale. That's how you got into the door. But in today's world, your job is to get into the door. And very quickly, unless you are an A-round company and you're focused on just new logo acquisition, you will quickly have to turn it into retaining that logo, growing that logo, and that logo brings you new logos. So unless you're laser focused on customer success and how that organization is able to do those three motions for you, you're flushing dollar amounts down the drain every single day. And I talk to so many leaders who just fail to understand that the power of a strong customer success organization is not only in the fact that it can definitely create additional bookings because you've got your renewals. It can create expansion motions inside of those accounts. It can bring on new logos through referrals, but it reduces the cost. It reduces the cost of marketing. It reduces the cost of sales. It reduces the cost of inbound motions. It reduces everything else for the organization because customer success becomes the engine that grows your business over time. And so I challenge a lot of leaders to stop thinking of CS as, oh, we'll do that next. But actually, when you're building an organization, start with thinking on how you're going to build that revenue engine for that next sale and again, and that next sale again and again.
Yeah, absolutely. Customer success actually starts pre-sale. And I've always thought of when you think of customer experience, we need to think of buyer experience as the precursor to customer experience.
Absolutely. When I design customer journeys, I start with my marketing team because the entire customer journey actually starts before they become a customer. How did they hear about us? How are we communicating with them? What does the website look like? What is their communication? Because that's what brings them into the funnel. Then I work with my sales pros and I sit down with my peers and we talk about what the sales experience should sound and feel like. And those who are more advanced will immediately say, yes, please talk to my SDRs and my AEs and help them understand why that experience matters. What is the customer looking for? And when I build those customer journeys, what I like to do is really think about how the customer should feel and what their experience should be. Not check marks of what I need to receive, but how do they feel and what's their experience as they're going through that motion, whether it's a survey that they have to fill out, a newsletter they receive from us, when they get a call to book a meeting, when they show up to the meeting, how do you look, sound, how do you prepare for it, what do you bring? All of that is the customer experience, and it is part of their journey. Those are moments where you can lose an entire sale and people forget about it and start designing a customer journey when the customer has signed a contract and that's day one. No, that's usually day 200. They've been part of our journey and we just neglected to build it. So I start mine way before they become a customer.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I always talk about the sales process. The buying experience is the trial period. The customer is testing you out. So you really need to put a lot of energy and effort to make sure that is the perfect experience for that buyer, because then you don't have an opportunity to prove that you are very good at customer experience. Yeah. If you get that first bit wrong, they're looking for an out. They're looking to get out of the contract before you've really bedded them in. And customers have long memories. It's really
very long memories.
At customers, it's possible, but it's hard. You don't want to be in that situation where you're winning back all of your, a majority of your customers. And we've had this in the past where we have these leaky buckets, don't we? We're constantly onboarding new logos while we're leaking them out the other end because the handoff and is not integrated, and customer success is all about satisfaction. So hopefully we're moving past that now. But I think that there's still more work to be done in terms of making sure that from pre-sale into sale, that the buyer's experience is as if they've been a customer of yours for a long time.
Yeah. Being able to have a conversation with an SDR team or a solutions engineering team or your AEs and your AMs and help them understand that they are actually a customer success manager, whether they want to call themselves that or not. But they are there as the face of the company. They're representative of the company. How they engage with the customer is a make it or break it. And those moments you cannot win back. And whether you said you would follow up on an email today and it's been 2 days and you failed to follow up, or they asked the question, you didn't answer it, your tone, again, how you show up to that meeting, how you take that call, that tells them a lot about the company. And then customers tend to make assumptions about how everybody else in the company will treat them. And that is what makes or breaks your biggest and your smallest deals out there.
Absolutely. So we're talking about the team, the entire revenue team. So let's look at, in terms of the strategies to identify the gaps within the performances, within the skill set, within the competencies, within the mindset, in order to make sure that the buyer's experience is the best it can be. How do you assess that? How do you go about identifying where some of those gaps might be within the talent team?
So I'll tell you what I've done in the past, and I have a process that I kind of go through. Part of it is that I am a hoarder of information. I love data and information that helps me make decisions. So I usually start when I join a company. I do this exercise by first go talk to your customers, then go talk to your closed loss, then go talk to those deals that never came through and understand from them what were the biggest wins for you, what were the biggest losses. Get to hear from them first before you speak to your team about what they feel are their greatest skill sets and their gaps. Then you have 2 data sets and you can put those together and find where they meet and where they are just peaks and valleys that are just never going to be there. And then your job as a CS leader is to build those bridges. Understand where your product is today and where it's going tomorrow. I've had experiences where the team that I have for today was phenomenal. Our customers were so happy with the service they got. The team felt like they had the right skills, but I also got information from my leadership team that the product is going to change and we would need new skills that we don't have on the team today. One of the things that I do then is have an honest conversation with my team and say, hey, there's some new skills we're going to learn. That's a great opportunity for you to expand your knowledge, expand your breadth, expand your experience. And we're here to do that learning. If you're on board with it, great. If you want to get off my bus, here's a stop where you can go somewhere else. There are other buses that you can get on if this is not the right one. I often try to promote from within and give people opportunities to learn new skills and learn new expertise before I bring from outside. But you have to first talk to your customers to understand where they see your strength, and then talk to your team and ask them where they see their own strength, and then look at that data. And then again, make those data decisions, driven decisions by understanding where you were, where you are today, and where you need to be in a week or in a month or a quarter.
Yeah, it's interesting that I'm sure it's Gartner that did the research, and they within the team they asked the question about how well they believe that they delivered great experiences to their customer, and 80% and said it was great. When they went to the customers, they said 8%. So 80 to 8, there's a chasm, a massive
There's
gap
a huge
between
chasm.
the perceptions.
And
Yeah.
I've found that that's usually the case. And so I always share that information anonymously. I won't tell them which customer said it so they don't take it personally, but helping people understand the gap between what your reality is, what the customer's reality is, that is the job of a CS leader. And then you are to build that experience to actually make sure that what your team think is 80% should be reversed. The customer should feel like it's 80%, and your team should feel like, I kind of gave them 60. I could have done better. There's always room to improve, but never have a difference of the customer thinks like that's 8%. And you're like, I did great today.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, you showed up. Nobody wanted you here.
Yeah. They couldn't wait to get you out the door.
Yes.
So a while back, you shared a quote from my absolute shiro, Maya Angelou, and it says, each time a woman stands up for herself, she stands up for all women. Now, you called out some inappropriate messages that you received on LinkedIn, outlining 6 strong points in response, and the listeners will have to go and look on your timeline to see this. But why did you feel it was important as a leader to speak out publicly?
Oh, this is a tough subject, but I'm going to climb my little soapbox here, Janice, and just be a little bit taller in just a minute. Maya Angelou is one of my heroes, as well as Ruth Bader Ginsburg. And the following quote is one that I've made between the two. I don't need you to make room for me at the table. I got my own table, and you will ask permission to sit at my table. Women have a tendency of making themselves seen but not heard. Maybe it's how upbringing was, or where we come in, or we feel so grateful that you let us sit in this executive room with us, so that you invited us to the meeting. No, you should be grateful that I came, and I'm coming prepared, and I'm qualified to make this decision. And being a woman in today's world opens us to a lot of unwanted, unwarranted, and unasked for communication of different levels, whether it's in a boardroom, whether it's in a meeting, or whether it's in even social networks like LinkedIn. There's no place for that. I am a highly qualified executive that has done years of tremendous work. Being a woman is just one other thing. But I do believe that women have to make room for other women. And when I speak for every other woman. And when I make space, I make space for other women. And when I stand up strong, there are 10 other women who can stand on my shoulders, and I expect them to make their shoulders wide so 10 more can come in. We belong in every single room. We belong in every single role. May the most qualified person be in the role. Their gender should have absolutely no room there. And I feel strongly, and every once in a while, there's a week or two where I get comments, or someone would say something as ridiculous like, oh, you're being so emotional. Actually, no, I'm being passionate, not emotional. And there's also nothing wrong with being emotional. I care deeply about the work that I do, and I'm proud of the fact that I bring emotions to it.
And it's interesting, they if a leader shows vulnerability, they build trust.
Yes. And I think we look at it. I learned so much during COVID about the amount of vulnerability that I allowed myself and allowed my team, and how many walls and defenses came down by me being able to say to my team, Janice, you're sitting in my living room. I am not apologizing for the mess. You're in my home. You invited yourself. There was a Zoom you sent me. I didn't invite you. And life is happening. There's children running behind. There's dogs barking. There's a pile of laundry right there. That's okay. That's life. And
Yeah.
being able to show up vulnerable at work makes room for others. And I don't think that, again, it's the same concept I said before. If you're going to do work the same way you did it 20 years ago, you will go nowhere. This is a different world we live in. Being vulnerable at work is a strength. It's a skill. It is not an impediment. It is not a weakness. There's nothing greater than being able to be your authentic self and show up with passion and emotions about the things you strongly believe in.
And organizations, leaders need us. Women are still 70% of the buying power and decision makers. And if you do not, we know, look at the financial crisis that we've all went through, the global financial crisis. If we had more women at the table, and there's lots of evidence
We
to
wouldn't be here,
demonstrate
folks.
that, we
We
wouldn't
would
be
be in
where
a much
we
better
are
position.
now. Exactly. Exactly. So, actually we're doing you a favor by, being if it is your table, at your table, because we have so much value and experience. And the thing is, what's interesting is that you want someone that's diverse at the table, but you want them to have the same groupthink as you and fit in. Well, what is the point of that? You
What's
actually
the
need
point of
that difference.
diversity if we have a majority in the same place?
I know.
It's an oxymoron, folks.
So let me ask you, what's the one personal value or belief that's helped you in your leadership approach and professional success?
Oh, that's a tough one. You have to choose just one.
Yeah, afraid so.
I think I would say curiosity. I like to understand why. I like to understand why people feel the way they do, why they experience things the way they do, why they're doing things the way they do. So, curiosity, understanding people better, understanding the process better, understanding how you got here, understanding where you want to go. Curiosity has prevented me of stepping into potholes I didn't want to go into, or understanding where a stop sign might be, or how long it will take me to get somewhere. I think it's a great skill that we should use a lot more of.
And it's interesting, that is a great leadership skill. It's one of the key leadership skill, curiosity. It puts other people, you're curious enough to put other people first and find out more, rather than thinking I know everything and I'm most important. So yeah, there you go. That's why you're a top leader.
Thank you.
So Leeron, how can listeners get hold of you?
You can find me on LinkedIn. I try to be active. I will say I don't post as often, but when I do, I have something to say. And so I will come in and drop a mic and tell you exactly what I do. You won't see posting multiple times a day, except when I have something real I feel is important to say. You can find me on LinkedIn. I'm available there. I try to be as active as I can and contribute. Feel free to send DMs if they're appropriate. Otherwise, you will hear from me about it.
I love that. Thank you so much for being a guest on Scale Your Sales podcast. I love your spirit. So yeah, I'm sure there'll be lots of listeners that will want to DM and link in with you and share their experience. You've been so much great insights in leadership, AI, and customer success. I've really loved the conversation. So thank you so much, Leeron.
Likewise, Janice. Thanks for having me.
If you enjoy this episode of Scale Your Sales podcast, explore other episodes of insightful guest conversations or watch the caption show on YouTube. Remember to subscribe so you never miss an episode filled with strategies to help you scale your sales. I love to hear your thoughts, so please share your views and leave a review on iTunes. It helps us reach more revenue generators just like you. So until next time, keep scaling your sales.